Hello everybody, this is BDtetra and I am playing Diablo 3. As you can see, I am playing on this new class called the Crusader. He's fairly interesting in a lot of ways. He has good AoE damage, he has good, pretty decent tankiness because he can hold a shield and nobody else holds a shield anymore really. But the one problem that everybody seems to have with this class is that he has no single target DPS. And I felt the same way playing this class. He has good AoE clearing abilities, but he really doesn't have any way to actually deal with bosses unless you just really tank them slowly and you just use your AoE abilities to slowly tick down their HP. But I found this legendary that changes the whole way you play the Crusader. Basically, as you can see in this video, he becomes a DPS monster. He just destroys everything on the screen. This is Torment 2, guys. I mean, I really don't have any good gear at all. I barely have 400k DPS here, and it's also Torment 2 with a 2-player game. I mean, look at this DPS. I'm still destroying all the mobs around here. It basically changes your Crusader to a wizard, and I was playing a wizard, so it's kind of funny. I was trying to make a tanky character, and I made a Crusader because he seemed pretty interesting, and I found this legendary which changed his playstyle basically into a wizard, so that's kind of ironic. But anyway, you do require a legendary to actually make this build possible, and you also actually need another legendary. It's not required, but it's very nice to have because Heaven's Fury costs a lot of Wrath. Otherwise, you really do not have enough Wrath to support the Heaven's Fury spam. But anyway, enough chit chat, and let's just quickly go over the build right now. Your primary skill should be Justice. You can use any rune, but I really like using Crack. Your other option is Slash with the Zeo rune. That also does holy damage, so you can choose whichever one you want, melee or ranged. Wrath of Fury is going to be a primary resource of damage, so that is absolutely necessary with Fires of Heaven rune. This rune removes the cooldown but adds a Wrath cost instead, and you're going to need a lot of Wrath to spam this ability. Laws of Valor is going to be your first choice of a support skill. You either want Critical or Unstoppable Force, whichever one you want. Both are good runes. Choose whichever one you want, higher DPS or a sustained DPS. You also want Steed Charge because horses are cool, and you really need the movement speed that you lose from the passive, so get any rune that you really want. Doesn't really matter. Judgment Resolved is going to be your second supportive skill. There's really no other choice unless you have insane crit chance. You're going to have to use this rune. This effect also works with the allies, so there's really no reason not to use this rune. It's really overpowered. And the third final supportive skill you're going to have is Shield Glare with Zealous Glare rune. This skill is going to help you with the Wrath problems you're going to have by spamming Heaven's Fury all over the place, so you're really going to need this or Provoke, whichever one you want. I recommend Shield Glare because that usually generates more Wrath. Now on to the passive skills. Heavenly Strength and Righteousness is going to be pretty much essential for this build. There's really no replacing either of them, so just keep those inside your passive slots. Righteousness is going to be necessary because you're going to want a high Wrath pool. Wrath pool is going to be a very useful passive to have because you're going to be spamming Heaven's Fury and you're going to be spending a lot of Wrath. The last passive slot can be really anything you want. I use Finery because it gives you a little bit more DPS, but it doesn't really matter what you choose here. Now on to my gear choices. You really want a lot of resource cost reduction and cooldown reduction. This is because you're going to want to spam your Heaven's Fury a lot, and also along with the supportive skills like Laws of Valor, Shield Glare, Judgment, and your horse skill, whatever that was called. You also want to stack Heaven's Fury damage as well as holy damage. Holy damage is a little bit more important, but you really want to balance both of them out to get maximum DPS. You also want to have a lot of critical hit damage because you're almost going to get 100% critical hit chance by using Judgment Resolved. Life on hit is absolutely not necessary for this build because you're going to be generating life by using Wrathful passive. Critical hit chance is not absolutely necessary, but it's really nice to have sustained DPS over a long period of time when your Judgment Resolved is on cooldown. Reaper's Wraps. This is the other almost required legendary for this build because you're going to want to have a lot of resource regeneration, and this helps a massive amount. And the final part of this build, it's also the most important part of this build. Fate of the Fell. As mentioned previously, this increases your Heaven's Fury lasers from 1 to 3. That basically triples your damage, 950 times 3. That's almost 3000% damage, with no cooldown, only resource cost of 40. That is absurd damage. Here are my current stats, not really important, but As you can see, I don't have really crazy gear, but I still do absurd damage, so it's really important to have this legendary to increase your DPS as the Crusader if you want some single target DPS. Critical hit chance, it seems they really want a 1 to 10 critical hit chance to critical hit damage ratio, so keep that in mind. Both my rings are pretty crap as well as my shields, so I do have some room for improvement on this build. As you can see, I kind of tried to focus on a resource cost reduction and cooldown reduction because those are probably the two most important parts of this build. You really do not have enough Wrath to support Heaven's Fury throughout the whole map without these two attributes. So you definitely want a diamond gem in your helm. It really helps a lot with your cooldown reduction. I really have low resistances, so I actually use diamond gems in my armor and stuff. But if you can change them into strength gems. Now onto my Paragon Points. I usually want to spend it on Wrath because I do not have enough points to put it in Strength. But if you do have enough points, go ahead and put some points into Strength. Also, cooldown reduction is very important. If you already have enough, then you can go on to critical hit damage to support Judgment. I'll resist because I do not have enough resistance. If you do, you have to balance armor and resistance, so you do here. Again, 10-to-1 ratio. And finally, resource cost reduction, because that's the most important. If you already have enough, you go for area damage. You do not need any life on hit on this build. And that's about it for the build. Now, this is a clip of me beating Skeleton King on Torment 2 with my friend. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.